my wrist sits behind the ball and the ball comes like sort of down in that rev, and then I get a sea breeze at the whacker, which sort of comes this way, which then drops it. So I think, and in Western Australia and test wickets, you've got to go over the top of the back of the ball, because essentially when you pull down the back of the ball spins like so, and then it sort of drops on the batter. So you're beating the batter in the air and you're using the breeze and being really tall, I can go up and over the ball.
G'day legends, and welcome back to the Cricket Mentoring Podcast. As always, I'm very excited with today's guest, someone I've followed from afar, I've played against, and it's really pleasing to see him doing so well. Corey Rocchiccioli, welcome to the Cricket Mentoring Podcast.
Thanks, Aussie. Thanks for having me.
Mate, it's a pleasure. Now, I'm just going to start with Rocchiccioli. Where does that come from? Where's the family from originally?
So it's funny you asked that, because up until about 3 weeks ago, I'd say Sicily in Italy, and I've been informed by my dad that it's completely wrong. I'm actually at the other end. So I'm sort of like in between Florence in a place called Lucca, sort of like around that area. So I've said especially the last 3 or 4 years that I'm from Sicily, and people who like sort of roughly know where like Sicily is versus like Florence and stuff like that. Sicily's like right down the bottom in the boot, and then Florence is up the top. So yeah, I've got it wrong, but that's where it is. So dad's Italian heritage and mum's Irish heritage, but yeah, so it's a really good mix.
So the game of cricket's growing around the world, and there's all these European countries popping up. If Australia doesn't work out, can you go and play freely? Do you have an Italian passport?
Yeah, so I've actually, I'm in the process right now of getting my Irish passport, just for county opportunities and the visa there. But I've been reliably informed by the people at Italy Cricket that I can actually qualify, because my grandfather was born there and didn't renounce his citizenship till after dad was born, which works perfectly apparently. So yeah, there was a few phone calls back and forth at the back end of the Shield season with the people at Italy. But yeah, at the moment, hopefully all eyes forward to Australia.
Yeah, Australia's number one. But let's go back to the very beginning. Tell us you've got a really unique and inspiring story, but let's start at the start. What's your first cricketing memory?
It's like everyone in Australia, but just like playing in the backyard. I was really lucky that where I lived was on a cul-de-sac. And so we had some neighbours next door who were 3 or 4 years older than me, and they knew everyone in the suburbs. So basically we had about 6 or 7 different cricket pitches over a couple of houses. We had a main one in the street, and my memories are playing throughout summer. Basically, as soon as that summer holiday started, we were playing 5-6 days in a row. I remember not being any good and sort of just enjoying just playing with the boys that were there. We started our own little fantasy competitions. So like I don't know if we were the first ones doing it, but the person who was the oldest, he organised like an Excel spreadsheet, basically ranked everyone's performances throughout the school holidays.
Yeah, wow.
So that was like the love of cricket for me. And I think not being very good, I always wanted to be as good as the older boys, but didn't really realise that it was because I was a little bit smaller and didn't have the fundamentals down pat. But that's where cricket, the essence of cricket is for me, and that's where it sort of stayed. I still remember those days so fondly, and that's where it is.
Yeah, I'm a parent. I've got young girls, and I say to other parents often that I really want my second child has an older child to look at and aspire to and copy. But I think there's so much power for kids to have older role models, especially at a young age. How old are we talking when you were sort of playing in the backyard?
Oh, like we would have been 5, 6, 7, and they would have been like anywhere between 7 to 15.
Yeah.
So like they were always bigger, stronger. Like that when we played 1-on-1, like, and we were drawing names out of the hat of who we'd have in each team and how we were scoring it and stuff. Like they'd always beat me, but I think because you're playing with them and you respect them and you look up to them. And I don't know if they got out deliberately because I was there, but it made you sort of like want to compete at that level and sort of you have so much fun doing it.
Yeah, amazing. And so what was your first competitive cricket? How did you get into playing the game?
So because my backyard was and my front yard was so competitive, I was playing with people older than me. I reckon I lasted probably 2 weeks in Milo have a go cricket and put it in the bin for a few years. And then I would have been in like maybe like year 4 or 5, and we just got a mate who asked me to come down and play at Lansdale Cricket Club. Played the game. I did reasonably well. I think I scored 30 odd not out, which is sort of where my batting usually goes at the moment, in the 30s. And then sort of stuck from there. Played half a year at Lansdale. Went to Kingsley Woodvale, and then tried out a couple of times for district cricket. obviously I wasn't a spinner back then. I was sort of just like a batter who bowled a little bit of meatos and tried to keep as well. There's this we could touch on it later. Basically, I've got a journal that I carry around with me on game day, and inside that, there's got a photo of me playing in that first year of me keeping. I had the ghillie green Puma gloves on with a Albion helmet with a sweatband and short sleeves, and I keep that to remind me of how much fun I had back in the day. And so that was those sort of memories that I've kept. My first year of 13s, I tried out as a keeper batter. This small little fella got ahead of me named Josh Philippi. I was pretty filthy at the time, but they probably got that decision right. But yeah, and then just a love of cricket kept following me.
So yeah, interesting. I looked up your date of birth, and I actually thought you're very similar age to Flip, who's been a guest here a few weeks ago. So tell us more about your teenage years then. How did it progress? How did you get into district cricket, and when did you, I suppose, start taking it more seriously?
I've always loved the idea of being a professional athlete. So I always loved that when I was a kid. So I followed North Melbourne in the footy. Unfortunately, we can't. Thing. Yeah, we can't. We haven't won much since I first started following them. But so we go to Arden Street every year, and like I just love watching the AFL athletes go about it. Them coming out of the change rooms. Back then, Arden Street was literally just like a suburban facility. And I just loved. So I was like playing footy, playing cricket. Always loved the idea of being a professional athlete, and it just sort of was that like winter I'd be trying to kick and snags. Cricket in the as a teenager, I was sort of like I just loved doing that. In 13s, I got in probably the top end of 13s. I don't know if it's still the same, but you can sort of trial that as a bottom age. I didn't make that first year 13s. Steve Johnson was my coach then, and sort of just like really just enjoy cricket. Use the pathway at Wanneroo just to really enjoy district cricket. I loved. It speaks volumes how much a cricket nuffy I am. I just have vivid memories of playing 13s or playing 14s and 15s, and then going to the top ground at Kingsway 1 and sitting there and doing the scoreboard all day for a Powerade and a hot dog, and watching Wes Robinson and Jake Fawcett and those sort of those batters at the time scoring runs. And first grade cricket to me was like the coolest thing ever. And watching like bangers score runs for fun a couple of times, I got that in vivid memories of that. V, yourself, like people like that who were playing first grade cricket, it was like awesome. And I just kept playing cricket, kept trying to like be really good at it, but like I wasn't. Like I was middle of the rung. You could probably ask the talent ID guys at the Wacker. I don't think they would have known my name till I was playing first grade cricket at uni. And I always wanted to be in those rep sides. Back then we had sort of zones like the Northwest and stuff, and I never made it. And I think that probably like sliding doors and resilience piece, like because I didn't make it, I always was chasing to make it. And then sort of back end of my districts and school, I sort of went down more of the rabbit hole of cricket and sort of wanted to try and make that a passion and perform. There was a couple of times where I got to play in the ACC versus public schools game at the Wacker, which I thought was the coolest thing ever. First year I broke my thumb. Second year I could actually play the full game. And then from there, just those are the exposures. And then sort of like, when I was in year 12, my nonnal passed away, and it was sort of like, it was a traumatic moment at the time, but it made me realise that I might as well go full in at cricket and try and make something of it. And if I don't, who cares? It was that sort of like pivotal sliding doors moment where it was like, because of the death of my nonnal, my grandfather, sort of made me realise how finite things are. And I've got 15 to 16 years of playing cricket. I might as well just give it a red hot crack. And if I'm not, I can do something else. And then from there, and leaving school, you got that autonomy to sort of push your own boundaries a little bit and sort of see where you wanted to get to. I started studying a sports science degree, playing at Wanneroo. Played a couple of years. I think on my 18th birthday, I was playing fourth grade. I still remember being utterly disappointed. I got picked in my first year out of juniors in the fourth grade team. Played well that game, played threes, and sort of played the back end of twos that year. Following year, I played heaps of twos, pretty much all of them, but just sort of there was no pathway at Wanneroo for me to go forward. And that, like, to be honest, like at the time, that was just like, there's nothing wrong with them doing that because I just hadn't performed.
And was that you still playing as a batter?
Yeah, I was playing a batter and as a spinner. I probably was batting like lower order, bowling a bit, but like spin wasn't serious. It was just like I just bowled spin because it just kept me in the game, and I just hated fielding, just sitting there doing nothing. So I just tried to be a spinner. It kept me in the game. Still wanted to be a batter. Like I still do want to be a batter, to be fair. And just doing that. And then when I finished that year, they sort of just gave me an indication that they didn't see me playing ones, which was totally fine because in hindsight, I wouldn't have seen me playing ones either. And it was all that self-belief and that drive. Like I thought I could do it. At sort of that time, Wayne Pearson left Wanneroo to go to university. And he sort of teed up a meeting with me to meet Will Stibbs. It's probably the best sliding doors moment. And I met with Stibber, sat there for 2.5 hours. Still remember at Dimartina's, like around this time of year, and he basically didn't promise me anything. Like I was the 7th spinner in line at university at the time, and I was like, well, I got nothing else to lose because I'm going to play 2s at uni or 2s at Wanneroo. Might as well try and change things up. And it was the best thing I ever did. The uni environment, from the outside looking in, everyone's a little bit different, and students are just like they're thinkers and doers, and that's sort of like where I'm at. I'm a thinker. I love reading, and the conversations you have at uni are incredible. And then from there, I sort of just that first year.
Let's just pause because there's so much to already unpack. Yeah. So much already, which is fantastic. So let's go back because there's so many kids and parents of kids who will be watching or listening to this. And this day and age, everyone wants validation and they want it now. They want to be selected in junior teams. They want everything now. And I'm sort of always, as an outside person, as a mentor, always saying, just calm down. Like, it doesn't have to be now. No one ever remembers the best 14-year-old or 16-year-old or 18-year-old. So you mentioned self-belief. And you mentioned resilience. Was there any point sort of through that 16, 17, 18 where you were like, what am I doing? Or like, I'm not going to make it, or I'm not good enough? Or like, how did you maintain the belief that it was possible with maybe not the output that you were hoping for?
I think I was incredibly naive, to be honest.
Which is a superpower at times.
Like, I genuinely didn't understand like what I was doing was the hardest thing to do. Like I was like, I had the belief that I was gonna do it. At times I didn't want to say that I was like that. If you asked me then, I wouldn't have said, yeah, I'm gonna play pro. But inside I would be like, I want to do it. And so, yeah, I was really naive, to be honest. And then I just loved cricket so much. Like, I love the sport. I still do now. Have long days in the dirt. Like, I still love it. The boys get sick of me talking cricket. And, yeah, my missus gets sick of me just watching every type of cricket there is. But, yeah, I just loved cricket.
But we're gonna go deeper into that in a little while. Yeah. Because to me, that is the secret to being ultra successful. And we'll hold that and we'll go deeper there. So keep going.
Yeah, so I just, 16, 17, 18, I just loved it so much. I wanted to give it a crack. And I can't, like, I've always thought about, like, was there any points or any stress points around, like, if I ever wanted to give it away? And I reckon that if I wasn't playing professionally, I'd still be playing any grade of cricket, still love it. So I think it was just that inherent love for cricket and the naivety to think it'll turn around if I just like put sheer weight of like time into it and sacrifice into it. They're probably it's this naivety and the sacrifice that I made around other things that probably stem me and push me through the funnel.
And I think it sounds in some ways similar to my journey in that I grew up in Alice Springs and I ended up playing professional cricket, although not as successfully as you, but I think, and I'm making an assumption here, were your parents very supportive? And the people around you at the time, they weren't saying, what are you doing, mate? You're kidding yourself. You're being silly. Like, they allowed you to think big.
Yeah, like my parents are elite. Like, we don't really, there was nothing there, no pressure around you should be something or you shouldn't be something. Mum always pushed me to make sure my studies were like there was a study like background for me to make sure that if I didn't work out, I had something to fall back on, which now I'm incredibly grateful for. And I was working on the side. So as long as I had those two things sorted, mum and dad were chill. Like, dad comes to all my cricket still. They just park up. They sit at uni. They come and watch me at the WACA. They don't offer any advice. Dad takes a piss out of the fact that I get out to the outswinger all the time and I nick off. So besides taking the banter out of me and the Mickey out of me, yeah, I have the best parents in the world. They didn't get involved. They offered advice when I needed it, pulled me in line when I needed it, and then they just sort of buffered me around, like making sure my studies and my working on the side was happening.
Yeah, amazing. And when you're growing up, you don't realise the impact your parents have. And now that I'm a parent and I'm a mentor and I do this as a business, I'm sort of seeing how important parenting is in sculpting the human and the athlete. Let's go back a bit to you becoming an off spinner. You mentioned how you did it because you were bored of just not doing anything. Like, when did you transition? When, like, that's your art now, that's your craft, you've become known for it, it's your career, but when did it start to happen?
So I actually got this validated the other day by my under 13s coach, because I was telling the story and I didn't know if I was making up the story, but it was a 36-degree day at Wanneroo, middle of November. I was bowling Meadows. I wasn't as fit as I was now, so those Meadows were literally like blowing out of my hand. And I asked Steve Johnson, the coach at the time, I was like, hey, can I bowl a ball of off-spin? And I vividly remember bit of shape, bit of spin. And he just basically said, don't bowl a medium pace ball for the rest of your life. That's what you're doing. At the time, I was like, oh, sweet, like 10 steps, bowl a few offies, bat, awesome. So it started there in under 13s, and then I had some success. I think success at that time was the fact that I was taller and junior players couldn't play spin as much. So I just bowl my 9 to 10 overs for 2 or 3 runs and over, and I was in the game. And I could bowl lots of balls.
And so when did you, like you spoke about being a batter, wanting to be a batter, still wanting to be a batter, but when did you then start to take your spin seriously? And moving from there, when did you start to get coaching or mentors to help you?
Honestly, moving to uni was probably the best thing, because I had 7 spinners in front of me at the time. So Sean Stewart, Will Bazisto, Ash Agar, Viv Paver, Chris Saberg. There was one other and myself. So there's 7 spinners. We had Tom Hogan. So at university, they've got Terry Alden and Tom Hogan to come down on Tuesday nights. And I just wanted to learn and get better at everything. So the fact that Tom was there on Tuesday nights, I just bowled. And like...
So what age did you went to uni?
21.
Okay.
2021, I reckon. That was probably... Sorry, I was either 20 or... I was 20 turning 21.
And up until that point, it was just a bit of freestyle in terms of your craft. You're just bowling, learning as you go, but not too much structure.
Yeah, no structure, no fundamentals. Just bowled because I could bowl. Didn't understand the intricate details of bowling spin. And to be honest, like, none of my idols were really like off spinners. They were batters. Gilly, Haas. I loved Haas's work ethic. Being at Wanneroo, they always talked about that. So I strive to have that work ethic. And then so it was all free play, freestyle. Get to uni, and that's when everything goes forward, because at the time, I was playing 2s. I was batting like in the 6 at the 2s, but my only way into playing 1s at uni at that time was bowling spin, and that's when I just went, all right, I'm racking the batting off for a bit, and I'm going full steam ahead bowling offies.
Yeah, amazing. And I'm my mind goes back. So I'll go to there in a sec. But so how did you then break into 1s? How did you stay in 1s, and give us that next evolution? And how did you then get into the whacker path?
So, like you spoke about, like the resilience and stuff before. I played. I always get the dates confused. I was like 2021. I made like a T20 debut playing against Basie. Great club to play against when you get first initiated into A-grade cricket. Did okay. Then went back in the 2s, and then for that whole year, I played 16 half games in the 1s. So, obviously in Perth, you can go up and down the grades if there's a state player coming back. So I was just like Boz's fill-in, Boz or Ags' fill-in. And I was up and I was down, I was up and I was down. And it was actually the following year, there was like, going into December, we actually played Perth. There was a day you actually took me to town, to be fair. I took 3 for 19 going into the Chrissy break, or it would have been more than 3 for 19, but I took 3 for. And it was that period where, unfortunately, Bangers at the Scorchers was serving his ban, and Boz got an opportunity to play consistently for the Scorchers in that year. And then I got to play the next year, going into the back end of the season, and I went 6 for, I went 5 for, 1 for, 7 for, 4 for, I reckon, and I took 27 wickets from 12 games, and then I just I got some confidence in my ability at that level, and sort of like rose from there. Around about that same year, Will Jacks, who plays for Surrey at the moment, playing for England, RCB, actually lived at my house. So Mum and Dad gave him a room because he was playing for us at uni, and I was able, in that little break over Christmas, I bowled to him every day for 2 weeks, and that really catapulted my Jaxie gave me a great piece of advice. Got to bowl to a pro, got to spend time around pros, and I think that was the best thing about university. I was spending so much time around pros that I started to understand what it took, started to build some fundamentals, understand where my best ball and my worst ball was, started to build some mental habits and some mental routines, read some unbelievable books around that time, and had some really, really big questions that were asked of some of the senior players at uni around theoretical questions about why you're playing the game, and I was able to sort of build in some enjoyment and sort of not taking the game too seriously, but taking it seriously at the same time.
It's amazing, and I don't want to make it sound disrespectful at all, but I remember this shows how far you've come. I remember, I think speaking to Chris Rogers, who I'm very close to, and he had relayed some info, I think, from Craig Howard, who's a spin coach and a highly rated, very good spin coach. And I think that back then, 5-6 years ago, we're talking, you're probably not played a lot of first grade, but that someone said Corey Rocchiccioli's data is through the roof, like your metric. And I remember thinking, fuck, serious? Like, he's not done it. And obviously, you've risen so far since then. But do you remember like something around that? There was, I'm probably confusing you a bit here, but there was definitely people liking you from what you were producing in terms of revs on the ball or something like that.
Yeah.
Before you got the results.
That actually happened the year after that. So there was a so I've done a fair bit of work with Howie now. So like, you're a really good man. And the year after was the year that I had that really good year. And then that following year, I thought I was going to get named in the academy because I could be in the team of the year, and I didn't get named in the academy, and God, that sucked. But like,
so let's just pause there. You were in the WACA team of the year, first grade team of the year,
first grade team of the year,
and you were hoping to get into the WACA academy.
Yep, and
didn't get in.
I didn't get in, and that just sort of like, there's all these points in my career where I've like wanted something, didn't get it, kept chasing it, kept trying to chase. I try and knock the door down with a sledgehammer, and I just that summer, that winter, I just kept doing my thing, training really hard in the preseason, getting really fit, getting strong, keep adding those layers on. I got a chance to go down. Stibber was really good at harassing Dave Fitzgerald, being like, Rock's available if you wanted to bowl at anything. Because at that time, I would literally, I was working at Scotch I'd changed jobs from Bunnings into a PT, then racked all that off, and then went and just sort of coached at Scotch, so I could then train whenever they needed me. And then I bowled a couple of times really well, played in a pracky game, got Storney out first ball. Storney's never blocked me again, traded me for 6 every time after that. And then I started to roll into a few, got picked in this team to play Victoria before they played it. And I started getting some confidence that the WACA were looking at me. Played pretty much every game of that second 11 season, which was awesome. Getting paid to play cricket was the coolest thing ever. It still is. Back end of that season, I had an up and down first grade year, good first grade year, but I was just learning how to play. There was times where I was playing Saturday, getting on a plane to go play Futures League somewhere, playing Monday to Thursday, day off Friday where we're flying back, and then playing grade cricket on the Saturday. So learning how to adapt to that. Yeah, and I was the best thing ever at the time, but you're grinding. Back into the year, we had Howie come over just before COVID, and they were doing the data testing. So they basically put a gun behind you with revs, and then they pick your revs and pick your speed. And so my revs per speed is off the chart thingo. It's around about where Gaz is, which I thought was pretty cool, but it doesn't really matter if you can't land it. So, but anyway, so then Howie instilled me some bit of confidence that I was able my shape and what I can do is really good, and the revs I can put on the board. I have reasonably big hands, and so then that basically Howie said to me, if you're not contracted here, I'm sure you'll be contracted somewhere. And I was like, oh, that'd be sick. And then the following week in our semi-final for uni. One of the weirdest, I don't even think I've ever said this, but I was eating day 2, we had a bit of a rain delay. I was eating literally a salad in the next to the change rooms at Flory, when you walk out and there's some chairs there, and V came up and sat next to me and was like, oh, don't tell anyone, but you're going to get a contract. And I was like, okay, freaked out, so happy. I didn't really know he said, oh, don't say anything for a while, but you've got it. To go out and bat a few hours later, and I'm I got a duck and I was not interested, didn't care. I was the happiest man alive. So that started. We went into COVID, but I had a rookie contract, so that was really cool. And then that started my professional journey.
Wow, so much. We've gone a long way into the podcast already, and there's so much there already into unpack. Let's go a bit more into your mentors. Something that our business is cricket mentoring, and who are the people that have had you've mentioned Stibber and Agar and a few others, but who are the people that have had a big impact on your career?
You could probably split it a few different directions. I've got a few like different mentors. I've got my long time S&C I work with. Seaton Humphreys has been really good on that aspect, my physical aspect, and then like Will Stibbs has been amazing at UWA. And then from a playing front, Viv Paver and Matthew Birrell, you would have played lots against them. They ask some really good questions of you as about how to be a good human first, and sort of give you some life advice, which was incredible. Perry Allen at uni, so like uni's been a really big part. Tom Hogan, like I mentioned before, so there's been some really key drivers at UWA. And then going into the professional setup, obviously Bo Cassen's been amazing. Everyone talks about Cass, talks about how good he is. I don't know if I'd be the spinner I am today professionally without his help constantly. And then Ags, I've mentioned it that many times, and like Ags doesn't get the plaudits he deserves as a human being to take in. I think this is like underrated, to take in the like a spinner that's come on the list in a dog eat dog world, and he's basically treated me like his little brother. We're texting all the time. Every winter, first week of April, when everyone's chilling, we're sneaking away to Revos and we're bowling for 2 or 3 hours, talking bant, trying to imitate different bowlers. Work on different balls, share as much knowledge as we can. During that Shield final, he was running drinks, I was playing. My mind wasn't in it in the second innings. We'd already sort of started the steamroll then, and he came out, gave me some advice, didn't have to, ran me a drink and said, hey, thought about this. So he's been incredible as a professional mentor, and being like my big brother. So yeah, I've been really lucky that I've had a lot of good mentors, and people who may not have thought they were mentors being mentors. So yeah, I've been really lucky.
And Bo Casson, I'll just touch back on him. Like, what a great thing the Wacker to have a batting guy who also can help you as a spinner. It's
incredible. I would love for him to enjoy the media a bit more, because him on a podcast would be incredible. His theories on cricket and sort of the way that he's channeled everyone who works with him batting wise and spin wise, like. It's pretty special.
Yeah, well, I'll try and get him on at some point. But let's move into the next part now. I want to cover off each of our 6 pillars of success. So I'm going to read something that I read that you have said on the technical pillar. So the intricate details of using the sea breeze, using my height and using my balance. It sort of forces me to get really good in my fundamentals. So we talk at Cricket Mentoring about having good fundamentals. It's something we think is a non-negotiable if you want to be successful. So what are the fundamentals you're talking about? We're just taking a break from this episode for a minute to tell you about the Cricket Mentoring community. We're on a mission to build the world's best community of cricketers, coaches, and parents. So no matter where in the world you live or what level you're at right now, the Cricket Mentoring community can help you. If you're committed to your game and serious about becoming the best cricketer you can be and person you can be off the field, then join cricketers from over 24 countries around the world in the Cricket Mentoring community. Get access to myself and other CM mentors and experts from around the world as we aim to teach you the 6 pillars of success: technical, tactical, mental, emotional, physical, and lifestyle, so that you can become the best you can be. If this excites you and you're ready to take the next step in your journey, then click on the link in the description below and join the Cricket Mentoring community now.
So yeah, I totally agree. Like, knowing your fundamentals, that was the best thing that I got at UWA, was I got time before playing. I think this is an underrated aspect of going into the system late, as I understood my fundamentals before I got the stress test of playing professionally. So I've got 4. I talk about my run-up speed, and my angle of my run-up, depending if I'm over or around. So don't want that to be too quick. I sort of want it, if people want to like close their eyes and envision like an aeroplane taking off, you sort of want to come in up and through your crease. I've got my front foot. So my third last step, so my jump in, if that's going to angle to square leg, it really puts off the angle that I want my front foot to angle to leg slip. Got my front arm. So I want my front arm essentially to go up and down, but I want my elbow to come and close into my obliques on my side, so I don't open up a window, so I don't push the ball. And then lastly is like the release on the ball, so being up and over the top of the ball. So they're 4, and they're the 4 that I basically just look at vision. That's all I look for. And then knowing that in game, if it shoots down leg, I know that I'm probably behind myself. If it shoots outside off, I know that I've opened the window, and that's my quick analysis to sort of, and then if I'm bowling darts, my run-up speed's too fast. And then if I'm not getting the shape I want, more often than not, that's my third foot, which I can then use the foot marks to sort of see where the angle of my foot is, or you can ask the umpire. But they're my four.
So who's been the big ones helping you understand that, and give our listeners and viewers an idea of how do you use footage? Is you get on AMS and you watch the match and you watch back, or are you putting a camera behind where you're training? Like, how are you using vision?
Different stages throughout different, whether we're in game or in the preseason. I don't like watching vision of myself because I just what I think I do compared to what I do. Sometimes I cringe. I don't know why, but so I use vision very specifically to look at if it's not working, why isn't it working? So I just look at those four pillars. I'm a feel bowler, so I feel things. So I want to feel it first before I look at the footage, and then once I know the feel's off, I can look at the footage and sort of get some understanding of what's going on. When I'm playing in game, I'm very particular about how I watch my footage because of I'm a tinkerer and I'm a thinker. So I don't watch footage so I watch a little bit of footage at tea and lunch if I need to, like if I really need to. I'll ask Cass what's going on if I need some outward looking. And then I won't look at footage till the morning of the next day because I'm really emotional. So if I look at it after lunch or after tea or whilst I'm in competitive mode, I can't filter the information in. So I look at it in the morning, get some feedback around what I need to do better. But it's a fine line during the game because if you're thinking too technically, you lose all ability to compete.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you? It's a fascinating thing for young players, and as you get older, and you're a smart guy, so you can process information well. How do you, for our viewers, how do you manage your technique, but then not let it overcome you in competition?
So I've got a few thousand different theories, but the way that I sort of portray it is, I don't even know if this is even true, but Michelangelo's painting the painting. All during the week, he just gets his paints in the right order, understands his brush strokes. So that's me during the week. Going into a game, it's all I'm worried about. Get out in the middle, I'm just trying to paint the painting. So I don't care about my brush strokes. I trust that it's been done. And I go out there and try and play. That was the fundamental shift I made in first grade. And then I've tried to keep that. So my prep going into games, which you'll touch on later, is both mental, physical, technical. The technical aspect is I bowled a batters 2 days out. And then the day before the game, when the boys are warming up and playing their warm-up game before they go in the nets on top-up day, I sneak out the back, miss the warm-up game, no big loss, I'm not very good at it anyway. I get my cones down, so I got a lot of cones that I put down around the crease, and then I just go to town for 20, 30 minutes. I might end with some mental cues that I'm working, like mental cues as in like what's my blocking word so like how I'm getting it down there. To get to compete but then that's it. So I just really try and refer back to my technical aspect. Morning of the game, I don't really like bowling like trusting that I've done the work. I'm a big if I've done the work, I can trust it and go out there and perform and adjust to what's happening. So I do that.
So no bowling on the morning.
I try to not bowl a lot, and I try not to then feel into it. So we're all going to go into the warming up in the game, and we're going to far out I don't feel good, I can't perform. So I try and just go, all right, I'm bowling 12 balls here and I'm done and I'm not reading into it. So then I do that, I warm up at lunch. If I bowled heaps, I don't even bother going out at tea because I'm cooked. But yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, amazing. So then the next thing, we've got a cricket ball here. I read how you said, I like to bowl with my fingers behind the back of the ball. And that's just the nature of growing up in Western Australia. We don't get a hell of a lot of spin. It was all about what I could do on the back of the ball. I just try and think about beating the batter in the air. So whether that's the sea breeze or putting the revs on the ball so that the bounce happens, that's the fundamentals that I'm working towards. Can you explain what you mean by being at the back of the ball?
So obviously I got massive fingers, but so the ball grips in there. It's nice and tight. I could literally shake this around and no cameras are going to be harmed. So essentially my wrist sits behind the ball and the ball comes sort of down in that rev, and then I get a sea breeze at the whacker which sort of comes this way, which then drops it. So I think, and in Western Australia and test wickets, you've got to go over the top of the back of the ball, because essentially when you pull down the back of the ball spins like so, and then it sort of drops on the batter. So you're beating the batter in the air and you're using the breeze and being really tall, I can go up and over the ball. You've got your subcontinent players who they sort of release the ball like this. So they bowl into the wicket because the Chennai, the Indian wickets allow for that to happen. Big spinning wickets, you can do it. So if you'd like an 80-20 rule, I'm 80% of the time like this, trying to get the wickets and then trying to go my squarey as a change up to try and break the batter's rhythm.
So you do have the side spinner or the squarey.
Yeah, which wasn't natural to me. I've just developed it. I've had people teach me how to do it. Ags has been really good. He's a natural square seam, and it's just sort of like my big bedrock and playing in Perth is like worried about this, getting lots of bounce, and then it's about how I can sort of get that in and sort of, utilise it to the best of my ability.
And so what happens if you talk about the sea breeze? Do you get to pick your end then? Do you say, sorry, Lance, you're going to come that end. I'm getting the sea breeze to assist me, or you guys have favourite ends? Like how do you manage that at the Wacker?
Well, I'm lucky because I just bowl into the breeze. I don't get a choice about bowling down breeze. So usually it's me and Jolie who bowl down breeze. Big Lancey gets to bowl from the top end, which is good because while he's bowling thunderbolts, I can lob a few up and hopefully get a few wickets. So essentially the sea breeze in Western Australia comes the way the pitches are sort of they go north-south here. So like I can bowl from the north end and sort of catch that southwest breeze. If it's an easterly, so the other way, I'll swap ends and sort of basically go into the breeze all the time. It's very rare for me to bowl down breeze unless it's a T20 game or something where the breeze is you're trying to do something the captain wants you to do.
Yeah, lovely. Now we could go a lot deeper into your technical, but we might be here till midnight. Let's go into the tactical now, our second pillar. So another thing you've said, which I want to pick apart, is I was trying to bowl on the stumps. At the Wacker, if you miss the stumps, it's 4. I came across to be a little bit more defensive, but I know at the Wacker, when you're defensive, you're always attacking. You're also attacking at the same time. So how do you, and this is a question to sort of help the mindset and game plans of young spinners, I guess, is how do you go about formulating your plan and what the team needs from you in that moment? Because sometimes you've got to hold. It might be day one and maybe the opposition's got off to a good start and you're just trying to hold and give the quicks a rest. Day 3 or day 4, you're coming on and trying to win the game and take wickets or whatever. But how do you assess the conditions and overlay the game situation with your strengths versus the batter's strengths?
It requires you to understand first yourself and know what you're good at. So you can't plan on bowling wide of the wicket if you can't bowl wide of the wicket. So you've got to be able to bowl, you got to understand what you can bowl first. So if you can bowl a squarey and you can't bowl over the top, that's cool. You're working on that during the week and you just build a plan on that. So lucky at the Wacker, day one's the best time to bowl spin in the country. So usually I'm a threat there. But
why do you say that? What is it?
So the wicket's thatchy and there's a lot of it explodes off the wicket. So it's just because it's grass, it's a little bit softer and it's very hard for the fast bowlers to sort of hit the stumps because it's like poppy. And that's where I get to come in and sort of bowl and try and blow some gloves off with my over the top ball. So I do a lot of planning pre-game on what the batters are going to do. I'll understand which batters are what are my danger batters? What do I need to pay attention to? I read the game situation.
What do you mean by danger batters? Are they guys that are going to attack you, or?
Yeah, so it's like just the right-hand batters who are really good at playing spin or will try and bully you out of the attack, essentially. So you just have an awareness of that. Then you're reading in the game situation. I'm lucky most of the time my fast bowlers have done some really good work. If they haven't, you defend the sort of the quote around defending to attack is that if you hit the stumps and you're getting defensive shots from the batter, you're bringing your best ball into the game. And I'm lucky I got the best bat pad in the world in Bangers standing there. So he catches it if they nick it. And so then I just try and go from there. So I defensively think about going at 2 or 3 runs and over. And then from there, I can build pressure. And then from the pressure, I can hopefully take some wickets. When you're a young kid going through it, simply like the more you can bowl and stay on, the more you have a chance to bowl for long periods of time. So it's about that. How do you go in for the first 5 or 6 overs of your spell? And hopefully you've got a really nice captain who will let you bowl for long periods. But how do you just work on not leaking runs? Do you have to put fielders out? So like when I first started playing first class cricket, Point went out straight away. Sauce just put him out, put square leg out. Now I've got the luxury that I can sort of bring him in when I start because I've built the competence at the level and understand what I'm doing. But yeah, if you have to play with your field, just so you don't leak, and then you can sort of attack from there.
I heard Shane Warne say once that he used to either bowl attackingly with a defensive field or bowl defensively with an attacking field? Is that something you try and do as well?
It's been well quoted by V to me a fair few times. I still don't really understand the metric, but I think that's what I've just tried to say is exactly what he says.
Yeah. Cool. So we've spoken about bowling at the whacker, but if you, in the Shield season, you bowl at the whacker and the next week you bowl at the SCG or you're bowling at the Gabba or Adelaide Oval or whatever, how do you go about changing what you need to do from wicket to wicket from this side of the country to the other?
Still something that I get to learn every day on how to do it. But it's simply, how does my stock ball, so my over the top ball, how does that match the wicket? So if I need to go a bit fuller at the wickets, the less bouncier wickets, do I need to change some fields? Don't start with my bat pad? Do I take a leg slip out? And then so I just like do that. But then it's the same thing. The stump size doesn't change because the pitch length stays the same. Find the stumps, and usually you're okay. And then if you can miss one side of the wicket, so right armour bowling to a right armour, missing down leg, it's sort of a tick. Missing everywhere, where we got a lot going on there. So just try and be consistent with how I'm missing, and then it aligns with my mental pillars and sort of just getting myself in the game. But I sort of I've always wanted to attack. I love taking wickets, so I've always had to go back the other way, and it's less attack, more defend.
So then how are you formulating your length? Because your length at the whacker to hit the stumps will be different to your length at the SCG. Are you standing in gully or point or wherever you're fielding and you're watching the quicks, you're listening, you're talking to the quicks? If it's first innings of the game, if it's second innings of the game, you're probably watching the opposition spinner. How are you formulating for a wicket you're not so familiar with?
Yeah, I've been lucky now to sort of have that understanding on most of the wickets in the country, but it's asking a lot of questions. I stand at point most of the time, unless Coops has kicked me to fine leg. But so I'm asking a lot of questions of the keeper. So when Flip was playing for Western Australia, I'd ask him, what's it doing? Poppy, not poppy? What do you reckon about the lengths? You ask the quicks. They go, it's a touch quicker today. When you play at the whack, you start to understand what the mills of grass, what that sort of means. So you sort of ask those questions before the game. But and then you get good feedback, because if you're bowling to a batter, your key metric is getting defensive shots and hitting the stumps. So if you're getting pulled, you've got to go a little bit full forward. If you're getting cut, same thing. If you're getting driven, just drag your length a little bit back, but you're almost happy missing on the fuller side, and then you just let yourself get in a rhythm. And then when you get rhythm and confidence and you don't read too much into it, you're able to then hit the stumps more.
So if you're mentoring young spinners, are you setting fields for good bowling and your best balls, or are you setting fields to cover some bad balls, or do you just try and do both, I guess?
I think it's like leg spin's a little bit different. They're like, that's really hard skill. Like, I got a lot of respect for young kids who want to bowl leg spin. But the easiest way to sort of think about it is if you were to pick two danger men in the field where you think the ball is going to go, get them right. So if it's spinning a lot, can you get your bat pad and your mid wicket in the game, and who have you got to get there? You got to get your two best fielders there. And then if you're going to miss, do you know where you're going to miss? So if you're floaty and you're going to miss outside off, can you put point back? Or if you know that you have a tendency to bowl full bungers, which is okay, drop your mid on back for a bit and just let yourself get in the game that way, and sort of don't try and just try and sort of simplify it down. Pick a couple of fielders you think are going to be in the game for you, and then go from there.
Yeah, nice one. Now, you've spent time in India. Let's talk a bit about tactically and bowling over there. What have you learnt from your time over there? And you're going back there soon.
Yeah, I'm excited to go back. Got to get the opportunity to go back twice. But I think over there I was actually, it's probably another one for the kids out there. Like, I kept a journal when I was there. For the whole time I was there, I kept a journal. What was I feeling? What did I learn? So I got to read that the other day and sort of go, oh yeah, that's what I did over there. So the way in India is like, you have your in-out fields a lot. So you have your blokes around the bat, and then you sort of like, conventionally in Australia, you keep mid on up. You just send them back straight away because it's a boundary-driven game. So red ball cricket in particular, I found over there that they just try and hit me for six. If everyone was in, they try and hit me for six because it was an easy way. They didn't have to worry about hitting the ball on the ground because it's spinning so much. So it's about, you can take some fielders away from you. You might not need a point or a cover because it's spinning so much. That you can put them in two mid wickets and have three blokes out in the boundary, and that's sort of okay. That's not a defensive field. That's actually an attacking field, because once again, you're trying to create them to play defensive shots.
Mm. And so you spoke about square seam and behind the ball, have you had to change much or try and bowl more of what isn't your stock ball when you're in India, or do you still stick to your strengths? Because that's something, it's not so contrasting as bowling at the whacker to bowling in India, but a lot of kids don't, and young players, young amateurs, let's say, don't understand when do I just stick to my strengths and when do I need to adapt to the situation, the conditions?
I think when you're going in first time, stick to your strengths because you know what they are, but you have to show some humility and some curiosity to find what works. So where we spend time when we're just training in the nets with all these net bowlers from India. So you go, hey, what'd you do there? Hey, like, I don't know if they know it, but they reckon that they're convinced that if they hit the seam, it'll go one way. If it doesn't, it goes the other way. So they're all gurus on like knowing which way the spin's going to go. So you just ask lots of questions and then you start packaging it up with your fundamentals. So if I want to bowl a squarey, I lose my window. I open my window up so I can push sort of through with it. So you find how that works and then you try and learn, and then you've got to make mistakes. Like, you're gonna make mistakes at training. That's the best time to learn, and you're gonna make mistakes in the middle, to be fair. But learn, adapt, learn again, adapt, ask questions of people over there. It's always good getting different reference points and different understanding. And then, like, good thing about there, the games aren't. No one knows where the games are. No one can look at the scores. So you just you're afraid to fail over there. So when you come back to Australia, I use so many of the balls I learnt in India and so many of the fields in the Shield season here. It just wasn't spinning a lot. I just was able to use some of the thoughts around it. They're really smart on they play so much cricket over there that they read patterns of the game so quickly. I just remember vividly that I bowled one ball in a one-dayer to a batter, and he went from batting outside off to outside leg, and the next ball he check drove me for 6 over cover, and I was so bemused about that change up. And you ask him after, and he's like, well, I already read from one ball that you were going to miss, and you weren't going to spin it, so I could open myself up. And then you're like, oh, okay, cool. So if a batter does that again, I sort of know what's happening. And then you realise when you're there that you've got things you need to get better at. So then you spend your time when you come back to training linking back up with Cass for me or your coach and go, nah, I just didn't have a square. I need to work on that. And then you build it at training, build your competence of that skill, and then slowly drip feed it into the game.
And the word that stands out for me, which I use a lot in my mentoring, is curiosity, is being curious and not thinking you know everything, but just thinking, asking the question, what happened there? Or how do I do that? Or how did that work? And that's obviously something that you sort of embody and has helped you in your career. Let's go to a couple of scenarios. I want to sort of see your thoughts on this. Now, someone comes out and is sweeping you a lot. How do you adjust? Are you going slower? Are you going faster? Are you going wider? Are you shorter? What are you doing if you're bowling to, it's any format, but let's say it's an Alex Ross who loves to sweep and sweeps well. How are you adjusting to that?
Well, first off, Rossi put me into the Manuka car park doing it. But so if it's a red ball game and they're sweeping me, I should know that before the game starts. Like, I should know that what Rossi's going to do before he's out there. If I'm playing first grade cricket, I should be asking enough questions before the batter comes out. Hey, what does Tom Scollett do? Okay, he sweeps me or he's going to run down. Okay, cool, that's really good to know. When you're playing professional cricket, you got vision, and every single batter in the country has a tell when they're about to sweep. If you can work out that tell before it happens, and before you're out there, you got a leg up and you sort of understand. You read the conditions of the wicket. So if we're playing at the whacker and blokes are sweeping me, I'm sort of happy with that. If I'm not, if we're playing somewhere else, how can I change your pattern in your brain as quickly as I can? So how can I get you off your game? Do I need to bowl a squarey? Okay, the squarey didn't work. Do I need to go a bit slower? Do I go from really wide of the wicket to really wide of the wicket on the other side, change my angles, and sort of ask those questions off the fact that I've sort of built a knowledge that where I can and can't go. Like, if I could only stay tight to the stumps, I just keep trying that with a few squaries. And then if it didn't work, you're like, oh, okay, I don't have the actual repertoire for that right now. Go to training and work on it so the next time you get that information. If it's between overs, go to the keeper. If it's 6 balls in, he's sweeping me, and then I don't have an answer, you go to senior player. At university, I was lucky I had Matt Birrell, Viv Paver, Chris Saberg as my sort of triangle. At WA, I get the plethora of every international known to man. And so I can just ask questions. Hey, if you're sweeping me, what don't you want me to bowl? And ask those type of questions. Or what would you want me to bowl if you're sweeping me? And then you can sort of just trial and error there. I would back my strengths as my toppy and using my squarey to sort of go under his bat and sort of break his rhythm is what I'd be trying to do. And then as soon as you see, you might have to push the field out. You might push 45 back. You might have deep square back. You keep your lid man in. And you just keep asking the questions, hitting the stumps, going, I'll just wait for you to make a mistake, minimize your damages by having those guys out there. And then just trying to learn on the fly and adapt. And that's where, if you're completely thinking about your technique, you can't adapt because you're off thinking about yourself and your insular. You need to get outside of that external and sort of build a plan on the go.
And curiosity again is asking questions of others, which is amazing. Now, second scenario, it's T20 cricket and you're bowling to a set batter who's trying to get you, who's trying to hit almost every ball for six, and there's another new batter at the other end. How would you manage that situation?
You're just trying to get him off strike as much as possible. I had that experience during the Big Bash recently where I had a really good first over and then Matt Short took me down the second over. And I was trying everything to get him off strike. Bowled a few Yorkers, got him off strike. Sometimes in T20 cricket, you are going to bowl a ball where you're like, gee, that's a good ball to get him off strike, and he pokers you 30 metres back over the boundary. But yeah, it's about how can you keep him off strike for as long as possible. Understand like what your makeup is, what you're really good at. So you might have a wrong in you might have wrong in or a flipper if you're a leggy. For an off, you might actually have a good Yorker in T20 cricket, or you might go wide of the stumps. Most often you need to know, once again, through vision, are they a sweeper or a non-sweeper? So you can change your field. You might not have 2 points to a right-hander if you know he can't reverse sweep, and put him somewhere else to try and then get him off strike and make him think differently. But yeah, it's about that, constantly trying to get him off strike.
If you enjoyed this episode or any of our content, then please do me a big favour and subscribe to our channel. The more subscribers we get, the bigger the guests we can get on and continue to help you on your journey of becoming the best you can be.